For 34 years, I carried a weight I couldn't name. I was the outcast in a perfect Texas family. The Harpers, millionaires, real estate giants, the pride of Highland Park. Our name was synonymous with success. Our lives polished for the world to admire. But behind the glittering facade, I was the daughter who didn't belong, the one who never fit the frame. My name is Megan Harper, and this is the story of how I unraveled a lie that defined my life. It culminated at my father's $65,000 birthday bash, where I exposed a truth that shattered everything. I'm 34 now, looking back on a childhood that felt like a beautiful painting I was never part of. Growing up in our Highland Park mansion, we had everything money could buy. 6 bedrooms, an indoor pool, my father William Harper's collection of Bentleys and Porsches gleaming in the garage. Dad was a titan, a real estate mogul whose developments reshaped Dallas. His face graced Forbes, his handshake closed million-dollar deals. Our Christmas cards were the talk of Texas, a snapshot of perfection. William, my mother Catherine, my siblings Daniel, Jessica, Nathan, and me. But I was always the odd one out, the one with auburn hair and brown eyes in a sea of blonde and blue. Mom would say I took after some distant grandmother, but her words never quite landed. I felt it in the way Dad's eyes skimmed over me, in the way his pride was reserved for my siblings. Daniel's home runs earned bear hugs. Jessica's dance recitals got roses. Nathan's science fairs sparked lavish dinners. My straight A's, a distracted nod, maybe a good job if I was lucky. The world saw the Harpers as Texas royalty, but I was a stranger in my own home, chasing a love that always slipped through my fingers. That chase led me to my father's 65th birthday, a $65,000 extravaganza at the Rosewood Mansion on Turtle Creek, Dallas's crown jewel. 300 of Texas's elite gathered under chandeliers, sipping champagne, celebrating a man who built an empire. But that night, I carried something heavier than their praise, a DNA test that would rewrite my story. Every family photo told the same story. I'd stand at the edge, my smile forced, my eyes searching for a place I belonged. In those Highland Park Christmas cards, Daniel, Jessica, and Nathan glowed with Dad's features. Blonde hair, blue eyes, his confident tilt of the chin. I was the anomaly, my auburn curls and brown eyes like a mark of exile. I'd stare at those photos late at night, wondering what was wrong with me. Why didn't I fit? Why did Dad's warmth stop at my siblings? I remember one Christmas, I was 10, tearing open presents under our 12-foot tree. Daniel got a gaming console, Jessica a designer dress, Nathan the latest laptop. My gift, a bookstore gift card, nice enough to avoid complaint, but it screamed afterthought. I tried to shrug it off, told myself I was being dramatic, but the pattern was relentless. In middle school, I threw myself into everything. Debate team, choir, math club, hoping Dad would notice. I won a regional debate in 7th grade, my heart pounding as I scanned the crowd for him. He was at Daniel's Cowboys game, cheering from the sidelines. Mom was there, clapping, her smile strained. She'd planned mother-daughter outings to make up for it, but even her love couldn't fill the void. Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Like you're screaming for someone to see you, but they look right through. That was my childhood. Beautiful on the outside, hollow within. I didn't know then that a secret was buried beneath it all. One that would explain why I was the Harper who didn't belong. That feeling of being an outsider followed me for decades. A shadow I couldn't shake. I built a life to prove my worth. A Harvard degree, a marketing empire in Boston, a condo overlooking the harbor. But no success could erase the question. Why didn't my father love me? The answer came in a hospital room, during Mom's battle with breast cancer. A nurse's casual remark about blood types sparked a suspicion I couldn't ignore. I took a DNA test, and the results shattered the Harper family myth. I wasn't William's daughter. The man who raised me, who withheld his love for 34 years, wasn't bound to me by blood. that truth became my weapon. At his lavish birthday party, surrounded by Dallas's elite, I stood up, DNA results in hand, and exposed the lie that defined my life. I walked away with my head high, the daughter he called a disgrace finally free. Stick with me to see how I took back my identity, how I found a real family, and how I turned pain into purpose. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share your own story in the comments. Let's uncover the truth together. Picture a mansion in Highland Park, Texas, sprawling across manicured lawns, the kind of place that screams wealth and prestige. That's where I grew up, in a 6-bedroom palace with marble floors, an indoor pool that shimmered under skylights, and a garage housing my father William Harper's prized collection. Porsches, Bentleys, each one polished to perfection. To the outside world, we were the epitome of Texas success, a family draped in luxury, our name etched into Dallas's skyline through Dad's real estate empire. But for me, Megan Harper, that mansion was a gilded cage, a place where I learned early on that money couldn't buy belonging. I was the odd one out, the daughter who didn't fit the Harper mold. My siblings, Daniel, Jessica, Nathan, were carbon copies of Dad, with his golden blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, the kind that sparkled in every family photo, catching the light like they were born to shine. Me. My auburn hair and brown eyes stuck out like a sore thumb, a constant reminder that I wasn't quite one of them. Mom, Catherine, would smile softly and say I took after some long-lost grandmother. Her voice gentle but unconvincing, like she was trying to sell me a story neither of us believed. I'd catch her watching me sometimes, her eyes flickering with something unspoken, a sadness I couldn't name. The mansion was our stage, and we played our roles. William, the commanding patriarch. Catherine, the elegant matriarch. My siblings, the golden children. But I was the misfit, the one who didn't know her lines. Our Christmas cards were legendary, mailed out to Dallas's elite, each one a carefully crafted lie of family perfection. I'd stand at the edge of those photos, my smile tight, my heart aching for a place in the picture. The world saw the Harpers as untouchable, but inside those walls, I was invisible, a shadow in a house of light. I didn't know it then, but my difference wasn't just skin deep. It was the key to a secret that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. William Harper was larger than life, a titan whose handshake could seal a deal worth millions, whose developments redefined Dallas's horizon. To my siblings, he was a hero, a father who showered them with pride as bright as the Texas sun. Daniel, Jessica, and Nathan basked in his glow, each achievement met with a warmth I could only watch from afar. When Daniel hit a home run in Little League, Dad would hoist him onto his shoulders, parading him like a trophy, his laughter echoing through the stands. Jessica's dance recitals ended with bouquets of roses, Dad's eyes beaming as he spun her around, calling her his star. Nathan's science fair victories sparked elaborate dinners at Dallas's finest steakhouses, Dad toasting his brilliance with a grin that lit up the room. Me. I was the overachiever, the one with straight A's, the one who aced every test and won every academic award. But my victories were met with a distracted nod, a half-hearted "good job, kid," as Dad's eyes drifted back to his phone or his empire. I still remember my 4th grade spelling bee, standing on that stage, clutching my trophy, searching the crowd for him. Mom was there, clapping, but Dad had an unmissable meeting. Later that night, he made it to Daniel's baseball game, cheering like it was the World Series. I told myself it was just his work, that he was busy building the Harper legacy. But deep down I knew it was more. His love was a currency he spent freely on my siblings, but for me it was always out of stock. I pushed harder, studied longer, joined every club, thinking if I could just be enough, he'd see me. But no matter how high I climbed, his approval stayed out of reach, a mirage in the Texas heat. That distance carved a hollow in me, a quiet ache that grew with every missed moment, every glance that passed me by. Some memories cut so deep they become part of you, like a scar you can't stop tracing. I was 8 years old, sitting on a bench outside my school, the Texas sun dipping low, casting long shadows across the empty parking lot. The other kids were gone, picked up by parents who hugged them tight, their cars disappearing down the road. I waited, clutching my backpack, my eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for Dad's Bentley to pull up. He was supposed to pick me up that day, but 2 hours passed, and the school secretary finally called. Her voice was gentle, but her pitying look burned into my memory, a quiet judgment that said I wasn't worth remembering. Dad had been caught up in a business meeting, some deal that couldn't wait. Mom was at Nathan's doctor's appointment, and I was forgotten, left behind like an afterthought. When Mom finally arrived, her face was flushed with guilt, her apologies tumbling out. "Your father's just busy, honey," she said, her eyes avoiding mine. But I saw the truth in her silence, in the way she gripped the steering wheel on the drive home. That wasn't the only time. There were other moments, school plays, science fairs, where I'd scan the audience, hoping for Dad's face, only to find Mom alone, her smile strained. Each absence chipped away at me, a reminder that I was less important, less loved. I started to wonder what I'd done wrong, why I wasn't enough to hold his attention. That day at school, sitting alone as the world moved on without me, planted a seed of doubt that grew into a question I couldn't shake. Why didn't my father love me? It was a question that would follow me for decades, a wound I carried into every triumph, every heartbreak. By middle school, I was desperate to prove myself, to earn the love Dad gave so freely to my siblings. I joined the debate team, thinking if I could shine bright enough, he'd finally see me. I practiced for weeks, memorizing arguments, perfecting every word. The regional debate competition was my chance, my moment to stand out. I imagined Dad in the audience, his face lighting up with pride, the way it did for Daniel's football games. The day came, and I stood on that stage, my heart pounding, my eyes scanning the crowd for him. I delivered every line flawlessly, my voice steady despite the nerves. We won and the crowd cheered, but as I stepped off the stage, clutching my certificate, I saw only Mom, her applause warm but solitary. Dad wasn't there. He'd taken Daniel to a Dallas Cowboys game, cheering from the stands while I stood alone. I scanned the crowd for a face that wasn't there, I told myself later, the words bitter in my throat. I wanted to scream, to demand why my victories didn't matter. Instead, I smiled, hugged Mom, and buried the hurt. That night, I overheard Dad telling Daniel how proud he was of his touchdown. I sat in my room, staring at my certificate, feeling smaller than ever. It wasn't just about one missed event. It was a pattern, a message that my efforts, no matter how great, would never be enough. That moment on the stage, searching for a father who wasn't there, became a turning point, a spark that fueled my drive to find answers, to uncover why I was always the outsider. Mom, Catherine, was the one constant in my world, the one who tried to fill the void Dad left behind. She was there for every school event, every award ceremony, her camera flashing as she captured moments Dad ignored. She'd plan mother-daughter outings, ice cream at Brahms, drives through the Texas countryside, just the two of us. Those moments were my lifeline, her warmth a balm for the coldness I felt at home. She kept scrapbooks of my achievements, every report card, every ribbon, meticulously arranged like a shrine to my worth. But even in her love, there was a shadow. I'd catch her watching me, her eyes heavy with a sadness I couldn't decipher. "You're so special, Megan," she'd say, her voice catching, as if she wanted to say more but couldn't. I didn't know it then, but she was hiding something bigger than I could imagine, a secret that weighed on her as heavily as Dad's indifference weighed on me. She'd hug me a little too long, her hands trembling, and I'd wonder what truth lay behind her guarded smiles. Looking back, I see her love was a quiet rebellion against the lie we all lived, her way of protecting me from a truth she wasn't ready to face. Those scrapbooks, those outings, were her way of saying I was enough, even if Dad never would. But no amount of her love could erase the question that haunted me. Why was I different? Why was I the Harper who didn't belong? By the time I was 13, the weight of being the odd one out in the Harper family had settled deep in my bones. I'd spent years chasing my father William's approval, only to catch his indifference instead. The question that had simmered inside me for so long finally spilled out one quiet afternoon in our Highland Park kitchen. Mom, Catherine, was arranging roses from her garden, her hands steady as always. I stood by the counter, my voice barely above a whisper, and asked, "Does Dad love me?" The words hung in the air, fragile and raw. Mom's hands froze, the scissors clattering against the vase. She turned to me, her face soft but strained, and said, "Of course, honey. He loves you in his own way." But her voice trembled, a quiver that betrayed her words. Her eyes, usually so warm, darted away, landing somewhere beyond me. That was the first crack in the facade, the moment I realized the perfect Harper family wasn't what it seemed. I wanted to believe her, to cling to the idea that Dad's coldness was just his nature, not a reflection of me. But that tremble in her voice, that fleeting look of guilt, planted a seed of doubt. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. How Mom would change the subject when I asked about Dad's distance, how her smiles faltered when we talked about family. I'd lie awake at night, replaying her words, searching for the truth hidden in their cracks. Was I imagining it, or was there something she wasn't telling me? That question, "Does Dad love me?" became a shadow, following me through every family dinner, every forced smile in our Christmas photos. I didn't know it then, but I was on the edge of uncovering a secret that would redefine my place in the Harper legacy. Mom's trembling voice was the first clue, a warning that the life I'd known was built on a lie I was too young to understand. At 14, my doubts grew too loud to ignore. The seed Mom had planted with her trembling voice had taken root, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the truth about my place in the Harper family was hidden somewhere, waiting to be found. One rainy Saturday, when the mansion was quiet, Dad at a meeting, Mom at a charity luncheon, my siblings off with friends, I slipped into Dad's home office. It was a forbidden space, all dark wood and leather, smelling of his cologne and power. I told myself I was just looking, but deep down I was hunting for answers. I wanted proof, something to explain why I didn't belong. Maybe adoption papers, a letter, anything to make sense of the ache I carried. My heart pounded as I rifled through drawers, careful to leave no trace. I found contracts, blueprints for Dad's Dallas developments, but nothing about me. Then, in a locked file cabinet, I'd pried it open with a paperclip, I found my birth certificate. There it was in black and white. Megan Harper, Father William Harper, Mother Catherine Harper. I stared at it, expecting relief, but all I got was more questions. If I was his daughter, why didn't he love me? Why did I feel like a stranger in my own home? The document should have been a shield against my doubts, but it felt like a lie, too clean, too perfect. I sat on the floor, the paper trembling in my hands, my mind racing. Had I been adopted? Was there a mistake? I wanted answers, but the office was silent, offering nothing but the weight of my uncertainty. I put everything back, my hands shaking, and left the room, but the questions followed me. That birth certificate didn't close the wound. It deepened it, a reminder that the truth was still out of reach, buried somewhere in the Harper family's polished facade. When I was 15, the Harper family graced the pages of Forbes, a glowing feature on Dad's real estate empire and our picture-perfect life. The article painted us as Texas royalty, William Harper, the visionary, Catherine, the gracious philanthropist, Daniel, Jessica, Nathan, the golden heirs, and me, the afterthought barely mentioned. The photos were the worst part. There we were, posed in our Highland Park mansion, Dad's arm around Daniel, Mom smiling beside Jessica, Nathan front and center. I stood at the edge, my auburn hair and brown eyes clashing with their blonde, blue-eyed uniformity, like a puzzle piece forced into the wrong picture. The world saw a family bound by love and success, but I saw the truth. I was the odd one out, the one who didn't belong. Those photos weren't just images. They were a mirror reflecting my isolation back at me. I'd stare at them, wondering why I couldn't blend in, why Dad's pride never reached me. The article quoted him saying, "My family is my legacy," and I felt a pang knowing I wasn't part of that vision. I tried to tell myself it was just a magazine, that it didn't define us, but it did. It was the Harper myth sold to the world, and I was the flaw in its perfection. I'd lie awake, replaying every moment Dad overlooked me, every time his eyes passed over me like I wasn't there. The Forbes feature was a public declaration of what I'd always feared. I wasn't a true Harper, not in the way that mattered. That realization fueled my need to dig deeper, to find the truth behind the glossy lie we lived. The world could buy the story, but I couldn't. Not anymore. One night when I was 15, I overheard something that changed everything. It was late, the Highland Park mansion silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. I was sneaking downstairs for a glass of water when I heard raised voices from Dad's office. Mom and Dad were arguing, their words sharp and raw. I froze outside the door, my heart pounding, knowing I shouldn't listen but unable to walk away. Mom's voice cut through the air, trembling with anger. "She's your daughter, William, whether you like it or not." Dad's reply was cold, almost cruel. "I signed the papers, didn't I? What more do you want?" Those words hit me like a punch, stealing my breath. Was I a contract to him? A box he'd checked to keep the peace? I pressed myself against the wall, my hands shaking, as their voices grew softer, muffled by the weight of their secrets. Mom said something about promises, about protecting me, but Dad's silence was louder than her pleas. I slipped back to my room, my mind spinning. What papers? Was I adopted? Was there another father out there? Those words, "I signed the papers," haunted me for years, a riddle I couldn't solve. I wanted to confront them, to demand the truth, but I was too afraid of what I'd find. Instead, I carried their argument like a stone in my chest, a confirmation that my place in the family was a lie. That night, I stopped trying to win Dad's love and started searching for answers, determined to uncover the secret that made me the outsider in my own home. Mom, Catherine, was my anchor in the storm of doubt that consumed my teenage years. While Dad's indifference left me grasping for answers, Mom's love was a quiet, steady force, trying to fill the gaps he left behind. She was there for every moment Dad missed. School plays, debate tournaments, award ceremonies. Her camera flashing, her smile warm but tinged with something I couldn't name. She kept scrapbooks of my achievements, every report card, every ribbon, every newspaper clipping about my academic wins, all arranged with a care that felt like defiance. "You're my brilliant girl," she'd say, her voice fierce, as if she could will me to believe it. But her eyes held a sadness I couldn't decode, a shadow that deepened when we were alone. She'd plan mother-daughter outings, drives to the Texas countryside, ice cream at Brahms, moments where we could escape the weight of the Harper name. Those days were my refuge, her laughter a shield against the questions that gnawed at me. Yet even in those moments, I'd catch her watching me, her gaze heavy with unspoken words. She'd hug me tightly, her hands lingering, as if she feared I'd slip away. I didn't know it then, but she was carrying a secret, a truth she guarded to protect me. Her scrapbooks, her love, were her way of saying I was enough, even if Dad's coldness said otherwise. But no matter how much she gave, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something, that the sadness in her eyes was tied to the lie that made me the Harper who didn't belong. At 34, I'd built a life far from the Harper mansion, a world away from Highland Park's polished lies. Boston was my refuge. Harvard degree, a marketing empire, a condo with a view of the harbor. But no success could erase the ache of never belonging, the question of why my father, William Harper, never loved me. Then came the call that changed everything. Mom, Catherine, had been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. The news hit like a punch. pulling me back to Dallas, back to the family I'd tried to leave behind. I packed a bag and flew home, my heart heavy with worry and unresolved pain. Mom's illness brought us together, but it also uncovered a truth I'd been chasing for years. At the hospital, we sat in sterile rooms, the beeping monitors a constant reminder of her fragility. Mom was thinner, her eyes tired, but her smile still held that fierce love I'd clung to as a child. We talked for hours, reminiscing about our mother-daughter drives through the Texas countryside. Her scrapbooks filled with my achievements. But there was a weight in her silences, a secret she wasn't ready to share. I wanted to ask about Dad's coldness, about the doubts that had haunted me since I was 13, but I couldn't. Not when she was fighting for her life. Instead, I held her hand, promising to stay until she was stronger. Those hospital visits rekindled our bond, but they also stirred the questions I'd buried. Why did I feel like an outsider in my own family? Why did Mom's eyes flicker with guilt when she looked at me? I didn't know it then, but the answer was coming, hidden in a casual remark that would unravel the Harper family myth. Mom's illness was the catalyst, pulling me back to Dallas not just to save her, but to find the truth that would set me free. During one of those long hospital days, waiting for Mom's test results, a nurse's offhand comment cracked open the door to the truth. She was reviewing Mom's chart, her brow furrowed, and said, "You're O negative like your mom. That's rare. Your dad and siblings are A positive, right?" I nodded, but her words landed like a stone in still water, rippling through years of doubt. O negative like Mom. Positive like Dad, Daniel, Jessica, and Nathan. It wasn't impossible. Genetics could explain it, but it was the final clue in a puzzle I'd been piecing together since I was a child. I'd always known I was different, with my auburn hair and brown eyes against their blonde, blue-eyed uniformity. Mom's vague explanations about a distant grandmother had never satisfied me, and Dad's coldness had always felt personal, like a rejection of something deeper than my personality. The nurse's comment wasn't proof, but it was a spark, igniting the questions I'd carried for decades. I started replaying every moment, the way Dad's pride skipped over me, the sadness in Mom's eyes, the argument I'd overheard at 15 about signing papers. Was I not his daughter? Was that why I never belonged? I didn't say anything to Mom, not then. She was too weak, her body battling cancer, and I couldn't add to her burden. But as I sat by her hospital bed, watching her sleep, I knew I had to find out. The nurse's words echoed in my mind, a quiet challenge to dig deeper. I'd spent my life feeling like an outsider in the Harper family, and now, for the first time, I had a lead. It wasn't impossible, but it was the final clue, the push I needed to uncover the truth that had been hidden from me all along. I couldn't ignore the nurse's comment about our blood types. It was like a thread pulling at the seams of the Harper family's perfect facade. While Mom rested in the hospital, I ordered a DNA test kit, my hands trembling as I filled out the order. I told myself it was just to settle my doubts, to prove I was overthinking. But deep down, I knew this was the moment I'd been waiting for, the chance to answer the question that had haunted me since childhood. Why didn't I belong? The kit arrived at my Dallas hotel, and I sat alone in my room, swabbing my cheek, sealing the envelope with a mix of dread and hope. The wait was agonizing. 3 weeks of pacing, of replaying every cold glance from Dad, every hesitant look from Mom. When the results came, I opened the email in the hospital parking lot, my heart pounding so loud I could barely think. The truth hit like a Texas thunderstorm, raw and unstoppable. Catherine was my mother, no question. Daniel, Jessica, and Nathan were my half-siblings, sharing only Mom's DNA. William Harper, the man who raised me, the man whose approval I'd chased for 34 years, was not my father. I sat in my car, staring at the screen, tears blurring the words. It wasn't just a test result. It was the answer to every moment I'd felt invisible, every time Dad's love passed me by. I wasn't his daughter. The realization was both a wound and a release, a truth that explained the distance but cut deeper than I'd expected. I wanted to confront him, to demand why he'd let me feel like a failure for so long. But I waited, knowing the moment would come. That DNA test wasn't just proof. It was power, a weapon I'd carry into the heart of the Harper legacy. The night of William Harper's 65th birthday was a spectacle. A $65,000 extravaganza at the Rosewood Mansion on Turtle Creek, Dallas's crown jewel of luxury. 300 of Texas's elite filled the ballroom, their diamonds glinting under chandeliers, their laughter mingling with the clink of champagne glasses and the hum of a live orchestra. It was the kind of event Dad lived for, a stage to showcase the Harper name, a testament to his empire. The guest list read like a who's who of Dallas. Politicians, oil tycoons, real estate moguls, all gathered to toast the man who'd reshaped the city's skyline. I hadn't planned to attend, not after years of distance, but Mom's illness changed that. She asked me to come, her voice weak but insistent, and I couldn't say no. I stood in my hotel room that evening, slipping into a crimson gown that felt like armor, its bold color a defiance of the Harper family's muted perfection. In my purse I carried two things: the DNA test results folded neatly, and the key to a $230,000 Maybach, a gift Dad had hinted he wanted. The car was his dream, a symbol of his wealth, but I wasn't there to please him. I was there to end the lie. As I walked into the ballroom, heads turned, whispers followed. I was the Harper daughter who'd left for Boston, the one who didn't fit the family's golden mold. The room buzzed with anticipation, not for me, but for Dad's grand speech, his moment to bask in his legacy. I took my seat at the family table, Daniel, Jessica, and Nathan beside me, their smiles polished, their ease a stark contrast to the storm inside me. Mom was absent, too weak to attend, and her absence felt like a missing piece of my courage. But I held the DNA results in my hand, their weight grounding me. This wasn't just a party. It was the stage for a reckoning, the moment I'd confront the man who'd called me a disgrace and walk away with my truth. The ballroom hushed as William Harper took the stage, his presence commanding, his tailored suit as sharp as his reputation. At 65, he was still the titan I'd known, his voice booming with the confidence of a man who'd built an empire. He raised a glass, his smile wide, and began his speech, thanking the guests, recounting his triumphs. Then he turned to his family, his legacy. "My children, Daniel, Jessica, Nathan, are the heart of the Harper name," he said, his eyes lingering on them with pride. Daniel, the future CEO. Jessica, the poised philanthropist. Nathan, the brilliant innovator. The crowd nodded, their applause warm. Then he looked at me, his smile tightening, and said, "And Megan? She never quite fit in, did she?" A ripple of awkward laughter spread through the room. Then silence, heavy and sharp. I felt every eye on me, the weight of 300 gazes pinning me to my seat. But I wasn't the scared girl who'd waited for his approval. I stood, my crimson gown catching the light, and the room went still. "You're right, William," I said, my voice steady, cutting through the silence. "I didn't fit in. Because I'm not your daughter." I placed the DNA results on the table, the paper stark against the white linen. "For 34 years, you withheld your love, treated me like a failure. But I was a child who deserved better, not your coldness." The crowd gasped, whispers erupting. Daniel's face paled. Jessica clutched her glass. Nathan stared at the floor. William's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing, but I wasn't done. I held up the Maybach key, its silver glinting in the chandelier light. "You wanted this car, a symbol of your empire. But like your love, it stays out of reach." I set the key beside the DNA results, my hand steady despite the storm inside me. The room was a sea of shocked faces, the Harper myth crumbling before their eyes. I'd spent my life chasing a place in this family, but in that moment I claimed my truth, not their approval. William's face flushed red, his composure cracking as he leaned forward. His voice low but sharp. "This is my night, Megan," he snapped, his words slicing through the stunned silence of the ballroom. I met his gaze, unflinching, and replied, "And this is my truth." The words were calm, but they carried the weight of 34 years of pain, of being the daughter he couldn't love. I opened the velvet box containing the Maybach key, its $230,000 price tag, a hollow symbol of the wealth he valued over me. "This gift, like your love, stays out of reach," I said, placing it beside the DNA results. The gesture was final, a rejection of the life I'd been forced to fit into. The room erupted in whispers, guests shifting uncomfortably, their eyes darting between me and William. A man at a nearby table, one of Dad's oldest friends, stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You've gone too far, Harper," he muttered, his voice loud enough to carry. He walked out, his wife trailing behind, their exit a crack in William's perfect facade. I turned, my crimson gown sweeping the floor, and walked toward the ballroom doors. Ethan, my fiancé, was waiting, his hand steady as he took mine. I didn't look back, didn't need to. The weight of the Harper name, the years of doubt, the pain of being the outsider, it all fell away with each step. I left behind the lie I'd lived, the family that couldn't love me, and the father who'd called me a disgrace. My truth was my freedom, and as I stepped into the Dallas night, my heart was light, my path clear. I was no longer the Harper who didn't belong. I was Megan, and I was enough. The night I walked out of William Harper's $65,000 birthday party, I left behind more than a ballroom full of shocked faces. I left behind the lie I'd lived for 34 years, the weight of being the Harper who didn't belong. But the truth I'd uncovered, that William wasn't my father, came with a new burden. A few days later, Mom called me from her hospital bed, her voice frail but urgent. Catherine, still fighting stage 3 breast cancer, asked me to come see her. I sat by her side, the sterile room heavy with the beeping of monitors, and she took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Megan," she said, her eyes glistening, "I need to tell you about David Sullivan." David was her first love, a kind-hearted Austin musician she'd met before William swept her into his world of wealth and power. Their romance ended when David's dreams clashed with her family's expectations, but not before I was conceived. David died in 2015, never knowing about me. Mom's voice broke as she confessed, her words a mix of guilt and relief. She'd married William to give me a stable life, but his coldness toward me was his way of punishing her for a past he couldn't erase. She begged me to keep the secret, to protect Daniel, Jessica, and Nathan from the truth while she battled her illness. "I don't want our family to break, not now," she whispered, tears falling. I nodded, my throat tight, promising to stay silent for her sake. But that promise burned inside me, a fire I couldn't quench. I loved Mom, but carrying her secret felt like carrying the Harper lie all over again. I left the hospital with a name, David Sullivan, and a resolve to find the family I'd never known, to reclaim the part of me that William's indifference had tried to erase. With Mom's secret locked inside me, I set out to find David Sullivan's family, hoping to piece together the father I'd never known. A few weeks after the party, I drove to Austin, my heart pounding with a mix of nerves and anticipation. David's sister, Barbara, lived in a cozy bungalow near Zilker Park, her home filled with the warmth Highland Park never had. I found her through old records and a mutual friend, and when I called, her voice was kind, curious. I told her my story, and she invited me to meet her children, Ryan and Melissa, David's grown kids from a later marriage. That afternoon, sitting in Barbara's living room, surrounded by photos of David, his warm brown eyes, his auburn hair so like mine, I felt a connection I'd never known. Barbara hugged me like family, her eyes misty. "You have his eyes, his stubborn streak," she said, laughing through tears. Ryan, a quiet carpenter, showed me David's old guitar, its strings worn from years of playing. Melissa, an artist, shared stories of their dad's love for Texas sunsets and his fierce loyalty. For the first time, I saw myself in someone else, not as the Harper outcast, but as David's daughter, a piece of a legacy built on love, not lies. We spent hours talking, laughing, crying, bridging the years we'd lost. Barbara gave me a photo of David, young and smiling, and I held it close, feeling whole in a way I never had. The Sullivans welcomed me without hesitation, their acceptance a balm for the wounds William's coldness had left. That day in Austin, I found more than a family. I found my roots, a truth that no one could take away. A month after the party, William summoned me to his Dallas office, a towering glass fortress overlooking the city he'd helped shape. I hadn't seen him since I dropped the DNA results, and the invitation felt like a trap. But I went, driven by a need to close the chapter he'd written for me. His office was as cold as his heart. Polished chrome, stark white walls, a desk cluttered with blueprints. He didn't stand when I entered, his eyes hard, his voice clipped. "You've made your point, Megan," he said, sliding an envelope across the desk. Inside was a contract, $5 million to keep my mouth shut, to never speak of David Sullivan or the DNA test again. "Take it and move on," he said, as if my life could be bought like one of his properties. I looked at him, the man who'd raised me but never loved me, and felt nothing but clarity. "I don't need your money to know my worth," I said, pushing the envelope back. His face darkened, but I stood tall, no longer the girl begging for his approval. I walked out, my heart light, my resolve firm. That moment sparked something new. I'd spent my life feeling broken, but now I wanted to help others heal. I started a charity in Texas, focused on kids from complex families, those caught in secrets, neglect, or rejection. We offered counseling, mentorship, safe spaces where they could find their voice. I poured my savings into it, hiring local counselors and partnering with Austin and Dallas schools. The first event, a workshop for teens, filled my heart in ways the Harper name never could. I saw myself in those kids, their eyes searching for belonging. My charity wasn't just a project. It was my way of turning pain into purpose, of proving that worth isn't defined by blood or wealth, but by the courage to rise above. As I rebuilt my life, Ethan was my rock, the man who saw me when I felt invisible. We'd met in Boston. His quiet strength, a contrast to the chaos of my past. After the party, he proposed under a Texas oak, his eyes steady as he promised to build a life with me, not a legacy. I said yes, my heart full, knowing I'd found a love that didn't demand I prove my worth. We planned a small wedding in Austin, a celebration of us, not the Harper name. No chandeliers, no elite guest list, just close friends, the Sullivans, and a promise to start fresh. William wasn't invited. I didn't need his presence to feel whole. "I'm building a family on love, not lies," I told Ethan, and he smiled, his hand in mine. We chose a venue overlooking Lake Travis, simple and warm, with wildflowers and string lights. Barbara offered to bake the cake, Ryan promised to build an arbor, and Melissa designed our invitations, their contributions a reminder of the family I'd gained. As we planned, I felt David's spirit in me. His love for simplicity, his stubborn heart. Mom, still fighting cancer, vowed to walk me down the aisle, her strength a beacon. I started writing a book about my journey, a way to share my story and help others find their truth. The wedding wasn't just a ceremony. It was a declaration that I was enough, that my future would be defined by choice, not secrets. With Ethan by my side, I was ready to step into a life where I belonged, not as a Harper, but as Megan, loved and free. For 34 years, I chased a place in a family that couldn't see me, believing blood defined belonging. But standing in that Dallas ballroom, DNA results in hand, I learned a truth that set me free. Family isn't DNA. It's who chooses you, who sees you when you feel invisible. The Harpers gave me a name, but the Sullivans gave me a home. My mother, Catherine, chose me with her fierce love, despite her secrets. Ethan chose me, building a future on trust. If you're carrying family pain, feeling unloved, unseen, or bound by lies, know this: the truth, no matter how hard, is your freedom. You don't need blood to belong. You need courage to claim your worth. My journey taught me that healing starts when you stop begging for love and start giving it to yourself. Let go of those who couldn't love you. Find the ones who will. That's family. This story isn't just mine. It's for anyone who's ever felt like they didn't belong. That's why I'm writing a book, pouring my journey into pages to help others find their truth. From Highland Park's polished lies to Austin's warm embrace, it's a story of pain, discovery, and healing. I want to share it with you to show that you're not alone. Next month, I'm hosting a virtual meetup from Dallas, a space to connect, share stories, and build a community of courage. I'd love for you to join me online, whether you're in Texas or across the globe. We'll talk about family, worth, and the power of truth. Sign up through the link below, and let's write our stories together. My book isn't just words. It's a promise that your pain can become your strength. Come be part of this journey. What does family mean to you? Is it the ones who share your blood or the ones who lift you up? Drop your definition in the comments. I'm reading everyone. Your story matters, and I want to hear it. If my journey resonated, hit that like button and subscribe to follow along. I'm sharing more about my charity, my book, and the life I'm building with Ethan. Your worth isn't defined by those who couldn't love you. It's defined by the courage to claim it. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Let's build a community where no one feels invisible. Together we can turn pain into purpose, lies into truth. Thank you for being here. Let's keep going hand in hand toward a future where we all belong.